ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between.
He's a South Texan poppy poet living that hashtag middle class gay life. It's Chibi.
She's a little bit Selena, a little bit J-Lo, and a whole lot of Pisces. It's Rocky.
And this is Words and Shit,
the show where you get to know the person behind the poetry.
Brought to you by Write Art Out
and Gemini's Productions. I have to tell you something.
Tell me.
And I promise this is going somewhere.
Okay.
I have recently discovered that there is a craze taking over America. And it is pickleball.
Okay. Yes, I know. I've heard about pickleball, but I thought that was like going on. It's been going.
It's been going.
It's been going.
I just recently discovered that it's become a huge thing in where pickleball and tennis people are fighting.
Yes.
Over court space.
Uh-huh.
And I discovered that in pickleball, because there's different lines, right? And that's the big fight, right? Because like if you turn a tennis court into a pickleball court and then you have to put different lines down and then it confuses the players because they're like, wait, which ones are our lines, right?
Okay.
In pickleball, there's a section near the thing, the meshy thing. Net.
Yes, it's the net.
So you don't play sports. There's an area near the net called the kitchen.
Okay.
And apparently,
and that's where you cook?
You can't stay in the kitchen.
Oh, because it's too hot?
Those are the rules. You're not allowed to stay in the kitchen when playing pickleball. And somebody was telling me this, and I was like, funny, I have the same rule in my house. You can't stay in the kitchen. Dogs, husbands, out. You can't stay in the kitchen.
Amazing.
Because I like to cook. And, you know, and I have a galley kitchen, right? So, like, it's small quarters, and it's like one of those things where, you know, you turn around and you're hitting something. So, but I do love to cook, and I love being in the kitchen. And it brings me so much joy because it's a way of like connecting with myselves, both current, past, and future, right?
Yes.
You know, like when it comes to like the dishes of my ancestors, or my land, the land of my people, or the current dishes of like, you know, like I just made some like baked potato barbecue chicken thighs for lunch, right? It's so very Texan to just like make a baked potato and then stuff it with barbecued meat, right? Or you know, future selves and like what I want to learn how to cook and feed myself and my family and all of that jazz. So, you know, the kitchen brings me joy. What about you?
You know, I am not as solo dolo in the kitchen. I actually invite people in the kitchen. I like it. I love a good party in the kitchen. I do.
No pun intended.
No, I want the more the merrier, right?
A little hot in that oven.
No, I really do love cooking with friends and family. I think to me that is so beautiful. I have actually a lot of friends who are amazing chefs because they're farmers. And so I feel like if you're a farmer, you're an amazing cook as well. And they have access to all the fresh ingredients, right? So it makes sense. But they always say that I am a kitchen bottom because, and all of them are kitchen tops.
You're just a receiver.
I am just like, you just tell me what to do and I'm be like, yes, chef. And all of them are just like, you do this and you do that, right? I feel like you're a kitchen top. I like to be a kitchen bottom. When it's my kitchen, I'm a kitchen verse. Okay. So I'm a switch. I want to pretend I have control, but like, if you want to help me.
As someone who has cooked in your kitchen before, I am.
Yeah. But no, I do. I love cooking, especially like more of my traditional types of food. So the other day I made pupusas with tostones, which is tostones are coming from Puerto Rico and pupusas are coming from El Salvador. And it is phenomenal to share those recipes. Yeah, with my friends and family. Yeah.
And it's the way that because exactly what you just talked about, right? This mesh, right? Pupusas con tostones. It's not something that, is like traditional Salvadorian or traditional Puerto Rican. It's your own kind of like, well, this is what I grew up with, right? This is what makes most sense for me. And, and in my family and what we do in my house sort of thing, right? And where you create your own kind of cuisines and how those cuisines are so linked to memory and how can't nobody tell you otherwise, right? No. That is not your food.
No, exactly. And it's also because, like, for me, tostones are easier because I don't have the patience for maduros if I have not ripened them. For all you don't have to know, like, you have to, like, wait days for this damn plátano to, like, get brown and black for it to be sweeter. And I just don't have the patience. But
yeah, that's just the way it'd be.
That's the kitchen bratty bottom of me.
No, food plays such a prevalent part in our lives, and I loved diving into the conversation of food with our guest today, and the way that food has showed up in their lives, and also the way that it's showing up in their poetry. And this conversation was so much fun. Let's just get right into it, shall we?
Yes, we shall.
Let's start. Our guest today is Geramee Hensley, a writer from Ohio. They were the editor-in-chief of Sonora Review and poetry editor at Tinderbox Poetry Journal. Their work has been featured in Button Poetry, Indiana Review, The Journal, The Margins, The Recluse, and elsewhere. They've received numerous awards, most recently a 2022 Academy of American Poets Prize and Booth Journal's 2022 Beyond the Margins Contest Prize, and their MFA from the University of Arizona. Their work has been supported by the Tin House Summer Workshop, wherein I met them and had a lovely time. Let's get into it. This is our conversation with Geramee. Okay. Geramee, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chibi and Rocky.
Yeah. Hi. Hey, we're so excited. We're so excited to talk to you and get into it.
You have the I'm going to have the balloons.
Yeah, how do you make the balloons happen?
I think it's just the one number two. I'd never seen the confetti. If I do two number twos.
I believe that
I got no
these emojis never work for me, so I'm always silly jelly, but so cute. So cute.
There's a confetti. Okay. Everyone that's listening to this podcast is like, what is happening right now? Another reason why you should go watch them on YouTube or Spotify. But this is the second in a series of Chibi hasn't seen your face in like 3 years. And I'm so happy to see you. So Geramee and I were in the same cohort at Tin House a few years ago, and so excited to just dive deeper into your work and get to know you a little better in today's episode. So
amazing. Yeah. And this is my first time meeting you, Geramee, so I'm just here for all the poetry and all the nerding out, really. Yeah. So are we ready?
Yes,
I'm ready. It's great meeting you for the first time too.
Perfect. So we're always going to do this little check-in before we really dive into who you are as a writer. So today, how does your heart feel, friend? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a big question. It's tired. That's for sure. We were talking earlier about, I work a Filipino food truck, and it's just exhausting physical work. And I kind of just have to be it is nice because I can be keyed in and really focused on a specific task for a while, which is good for me. But yeah, tired, but things have been okay lately. I feel like I'm coming out of a darkness kind of, and it feels good to feel like that. That's for sure. So tired but hopeful, maybe.
Tired but hopeful.
Coming into the light.
Yes.
That is summer in Tucson, Arizona.
There's lots of light there. Lots and lots of light.
All right. I love that. I think that's a good place to start the conversation. And so before we dive in, we like to start with a little icebreaker game that we call speed dating. It's just a little an appetizer, an aperitif, a niblet of who Geramee is. And so we're going to ask you 4 questions, and we encourage you to answer them as concisely as you feel is necessary to justify your answer.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. So first question. What is the best style of video games?
Role-playing games. I don't really get down with like first-person shooters or anything like that, and I feel like I play video games for a story. And if there's no story, it's really difficult for it to hook me. I wish I lived in a world where I would get excited about the kinds of games you might see on like esports or something like that. Because if I could make money playing video games, that'd be pretty sick. But there's no esports for me just like playing Baldur's Gate 3 for like 9 hours, unfortunately. But role-playing games with a really good story. And specifically, I play a lot of Japanese role-playing games. And they just like tie in interesting mythos and things like that. I feel like I was kind of a weird kid because of that. I played too many Japanese role-playing games, and it influenced my vocabulary. And I think it's part of the reason why I write, for sure.
Amazing. No, I saw that was like one of your topics, and I was just like, are we going to be talking about like Animal Crossing or like Power World or League of I was trying to figure out where in the video game spectrum you were in.
I can play those too, and I do have I have an appreciation for those things, but I think the story, if a video game has a story, it also gives me a clear endpoint, and I have to be wary of video games that are just like, you can play me forever, because I'll do it.
There could be an ending credits.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you played the new Final Fantasy remake?
Yes, I am. So, I could talk about Final Fantasy VII for a really long time because I'm working on a book related to Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, have fun!
That is like a polyvocal memoir, tying in. It's a strange project, but it's tying in my mom's life as an immigrant. I feel like I have to give you I'm going to try and give you the 1 minute idea behind it. Me and my mom were working on a memoir for her before she passed away, and she died while we were making it. And one of the last things that she told me to do was to finish this project, basically. And I had a really difficult time finding my way back into it. I've always loved Final Fantasy VII. It was the first video game that I played after she passed away, or I replayed it, rather. I played it many times. And there's a really famous character death in that video game, which I won't go into too much for people who are experiencing Final Fantasy VII for the first time with these new remakes coming out. But really famous character death, and the experience of replaying the game and anticipating this character's death. Well, I was also dealing with the grief of accepting a death that had happened and that I knew was going to happen because of a terminal diagnosis. There was the inevitable death and those two things coming up together. Really, I experienced Final Fantasy VII, I think, for the first time, in that moment. And, the one of the scenario writers for the game, or the producer, Katase, he was, part of the reason why there's so much death in that game is because he was experiencing the death of his mom when they were making the game. And there was just too many similarities. And I was like, I can't avoid this. And Final Fantasy VII got me back into this project. But I am replaying it. It also came out on the 4-year anniversary of my mom's funeral, which was strange too, and probably something that I'll write about also. Mm-hmm. But I haven't beaten it yet. It's a big game.
It is. I've only been able to play the first half that came out because I don't own a PS5, so I can't play the second half. But it sounds like this was cosmically aligned for you, and I said appetizer. I said icebreaker.
Yeah, my bad.
We're deep. We're deep already.
Okay, no, that was a great. I'm just like, wow, I'm ready to read that. Whenever you do, the only Final Fantasy I remember is like through Kingdom Hearts. So that is the.
you just struck on my other like fandom that I'm like. I could run to my room right now and get a Keyblade.
Oh my gosh! Let me tell you, Simple and Clean and Sanctuary are on my rotation on my playlist of music. Okay, great. I love this already. So, on top of video games, you also love to play like tabletop role-playing games, right? Mm. One, are you a D&D person?
I am, and I think that like, well, D&D is just like the Coca-Cola of tabletop role-playing game stuff.
Okay.
And, if you want to play tabletop role-playing games, you want to play with other people, it's like the most accessible way of doing that, just because there's so many resources and stuff like that. And
okay,
but yeah, I am a D&D person. Okay,
great. Because I was my next like part 2 of that question was like, are you excited for Critical Role's like season 3 of like Vox Machina?
I am. I've been waiting, honestly. I've actually I've been on the Reddit multiple times to see if like when like a trailer is going to drop or when the news we don't know when the new season's coming out.
No, they announced it like it was going to come out like this, I think this year.
Yeah. It's like my treadmill show. I like watched both seasons on the treadmill and it does get me like amped up and I'm like, sure, it would be nice to have a new season
but do you watch the actual like YouTube version of it with like them actually doing the role playing like live?
So I've watched some of it. I mostly listen to the podcast version of it when I'm like in on that. But I actually just recently started DMing for like my own group, which has been a lot of fun. But it has been nice to have like a template of some kind to just like learn some versions of like how to do that. I mean, there's only like one Matt Mercer and stuff like that, but it's good to learn how to do like it's like a solo show or like a one like person to some degree when you're like doing the NPCs and everything like that. And yeah, it's been a useful tool to learn how to like let your players take control of scenes and stuff like that too. But yeah, I don't watch much of the YouTube stuff because it's just it's a lot of
it is a lot.
it's so many hours.
A lot. It's like I think close to 100 or 400. I don't know. I'm going to exaggerate, but it's a lot. I just wanted to know. Yeah, my partner, he watches all of it. Like, yeah.
For the listeners that came here expecting poetry, we lied.
No, we're still doing it. We're after this segment.
I am so here for this conversation. Okay, my next and last question. I ask this of everyone on our show because I genuinely want to know. What is your favorite thing to eat? Whether it be a specific item of food, a food dish, or a whole meal. Just what's your favorite thing to eat?
Besides everything, Filipino barbecue. I love food and I can eat everything, but Filipino barbecue has a special place in my heart. And it might. Well, can an answer be a condiment?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't want to ever eat it by itself, but like the flavor of my childhood is a mixture of like spiced vinegar and fish sauce. It's usually referred as a sasawan, and it's just used as a condiment with like almost anything that you're eating with rice in the Philippines. And that is like the flavor for me.
I'm so hungry. I mean, you said barbecue and then Filipino barbecue and then spiced vinegar.
I don't think I've ever had Filipino barbecue though.
Oh, it's if we're ever in the same town or something, I'll make it for you. It's
perfect.
Like it's so dangerous for me to work on a Filipino food truck because I can just eat however much I want. It's really bad, actually, but it is delicious.
Okay, perfect. All right, so this is my last question. Okay, so because we just want to know like your current obsession, what gets you pumped up, like maybe like what gets you pumped up when you are DMing or you're like playing any video games. Like what song do you go to like you know that you're going to be playing for like hours and hours and you're like, I'm got this. Let me pump myself up.
Well, so there is a playlist that I've been listening to often called I think it's called Bardcore.
Hardcore?
Yeah, they just take like popular pop songs and make like medieval bard versions of them, and it's like really silly. And specifically for like D&D and stuff like that, it gets me in the zone to like prep or something. But other than that, I'm listening to a lot of like video game music and anime music.
So the Postal Service. Oh, I love it. I'm sorry. I dogged on the Postal Service when they first came out, and I was like, this just sounds like anime music. And then I was like, it sounds like anime music. I love it. But yeah. Okay. All right. That was just skimming the surface, y'all. Just a sprinkling, a smattering. There's so many directions that we can go from here, but we're going to let you decide by opening us up with a poem.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to pull it out of, I just have my printed out thesis defense here from last year. And it seems I like only read out of it for my actual defense. And it feels good to like crack it open again. I am going to read actually technically the first poem in it. So there is a poem that opens it before like the front matter, but I'm going to read the first poem in like the sectioned parts of it. So this poem is called Ode to My Mother in Key of Hollow Hollow. I wanted to know how the world was created, so I broke a mirror inside my mother. In a voice of rippled liquid, Shatter asks me, are you vinegar or water? History is a recipe for the end of the world. A world still needs songs to end to. Worlds without end lack mercy and pack their capillaries with mud, fattening oceans to pause. I do things like walk outside and scream inside my body. I reach for a word. If I had it, I would throat the roundness of its vowels, the edge of its consonants. Dear razor, I didn't like hollow hollow when I was young. It always tasted like a riddle, razor-shaved ice, its candied beans, too many textures, too many colors, too many questions. My throat has hands which lace the finger of my mother's voice. Remember, any creation myth could be ours. All myths herald loss, loss dancing into more creation, asking itself, am I vinegar or water? If I produce a sound that belonged once to my mother, what does the remembering? A, mouth, B, ear, C, vinegar, D, water. Hollow hollow means mix mix, means my blood, my body, my name, my metal. I am desert and dusk and numb and in hot hands, an island, 7,000 of them, a fortune, a mistake, a fraud, a ghost, eaten, 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 named, eaten. When it comes to loss, I know only one thing. Absence is an actual space. How to honor the dead? I mean, who receives it? In the mother, my hands bordered, we were both teeth-marked, ravenous. I cannot rescue your future, Ma. I abandon all nations and eat more than the world has to offer. Rebirthing pains, who died and made you? Shatter, who died and made you? The face inside my face. Am I vinegar or water? I am a mother's death wearing her child's skin. I am a mother's death wearing her child's skin. I am a mother's skin. I am mother death wearing child skin. I am death wearing skin. Yeah, just starting it off light with some lighthearted topics.
So lighthearted, not like I'm trying not like to hold back tears or anything. It's cool. Like, thanks, Jeremy.
Rocky's an Aquarius, a Pisces.
Yeah, but I've been really good about not crying this season. So, Jeremy. I love my mom, right? And I think you already kind of started talking about how your mom is like, you could tell how important she is in your writing and who you are all the time. So I am definitely a mama's girl. And then tomorrow is Mother's Day, and I'm not close. My mom is like in Texas and I'm in New York. So I'm like missing her a lot with this poem. But at the same time, I guess like you've mentioned your mom with your writing. So I'm guessing your mom was like a huge supporter. How does like your mom's like legacy really live within your writing? And like what other projects have you really honored her with?
Yeah. So, I mean, all of my writing is to her to some degree, it feels like. And I had mentioned that nonfiction project that we were working on. And I'm like, I mean, in that project, she like dictated it. I wrote it. And then I was supposed to I've been like adding more and things like that. And the understanding was that once we had a draft, I was always going to be the one to edit it. But the project also became like an artifact or archive of like her thought process and mind. And I really struggled with it's not so much an ethical question because I had full permission, but there's like a spiritual question of like what going back into that project and editing it for people's consumption does. And I'm still dealing with that, but weirdly, like Final Fantasy VII is what has like granted me some permission like back into that, because if anyone can and should or is capable of editing that, it is me. And to some level, like my writing to honor her and honor a lineage that I'm a part of, it is also a responsibility that I'm like trying to accept. And thinking about writing as responsibility can be pretty difficult too. And I realize that's part of the reason why I struggled so much with getting back into some of the writing, because nothing better to avoid than responsibilities, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, the stakes are that high, at least for some of us.
Yes. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. You could tell that you take a lot of care with how you talk about your mother, just within that first poem, and even just like prefacing about this project you had with her, writing her memoir. And to kind of like make it light and just be a little nerdy, as Spider-Man's Uncle Ben had said, with great power comes great responsibility.
I'm walking.
Uncle Ben was right.
Yes.
No, thank you for sharing that. The moment you said the title, I was like, I've heard a version of this. I know this poem. And like, up. And so love seeing where it went, from where I saw it 2 years ago, and then, what ended up, landing in your thesis. The other thing that I've also seen too is your work in terms of the kind of like work that you're doing visually with your poetry, right? There's this collage element in your work that I think I don't think I'd necessarily seen before. That again brings in this very deeply personal aspect into it, because these are actual pictures of your family, of family members back in the Philippines, of like scrapbook memories and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about that and the layering?
Yeah. So even without the photographs, I feel like the language is also like a collage process for me. And with the visual aspect too, I mean, that feeling that you get when you like just write a good line and you're like, ah, shit, I did it. Like, and it's just like the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
As I've been making some visual work, I'm thinking of like a specific piece. So I was clipping my titos from a picture, and I had to like make a clipping path around their bodies. And I also like, the photo was like very old, and like it was difficult in some instances to tell like what was a shadow and like what was a part of my uncle who was like standing. So I also had to like mimic their poses to try and like figure it out. So it was a very embodied process for me to make this clipping path. But like, as I was making the clipping path, like the actual process, I had that exact same feeling of writing a line. And I knew then that I was like on to something. Like it did feel very much like I was stewarding something or like saving something. And I think that is part of the reason, or part of like the victory in our writing process. And I felt it with something as like, seriously, just like mundane as like making like physical like anchor points with like a pen tool on Photoshop. But I felt, and that was when I knew I was onto something. And the collage aspect with like having multiple images across decades, I feel like I'm able to like, in some way, like puncture time. And it's like a wormhole for me, basically. And I'm also able to stretch out like one moment in the past across decades. And then when all of it is on the page, it gets to happen all at once to some degree. And I think that is important for, me living in this moment, because that is how I experience it. It kind of happens all at once.
Fantastic. I'm really loving this this multiple dimensional type of like family archival poetry work.
Continue on.
Yes. Let's combine some like both like two of your words, right? Worlds, where you obviously love your family, and it shows. And then you're kind of been talking about this Filipino food truck, but I feel like we're just like kind of grazing through. We're having really deep dived in it. But I see that you combine both of your love for food and your family together, even in your poetry. Like, for example, your Ode to My Family in Key of Fried Chicken and Fried Rice. Can you talk about like, how was it like combining these two loves, and then like also talk about your Filipino food truck, please?
Yeah, of course. The food is like critical. I mean, it's a common move, and like, right, everyone has like the mango poem when we're talking about like poetics for people.
Not the call out. Not the call
out. Honestly, like my mango is fried chicken, which is like messed up, but I have to like own up to it, because when I was a kid and we would get like KFC and we would eat KFC with garlic fried rice and that vinegar and fish sauce mixture I had mentioned, I was like, this is Filipino food. I was like, and to be fair, anytime I was a kid and I was eating anything with rice, I was like, this is Filipino food. Because I just like, I didn't know any better. But to me, the KFC with the rice, I was like, this is Filipino food. And that was also like, it acts in some way like the collage stuff. And I think often about how like, I'll have to probably read that poem later because I'm just going to like talk about it a lot now. Cause I wrote that poem on the day that my mom died. And I didn't know that was going to be the day. And I wrote it all in one go. And it's a very like, special poem to me. Like I eulogized her with that poem, and like, it's a very special, poem to me, but food is, a tether for our memories. And every time I have like KFC and fried rice, it is like it's also like a spiritual experience. And every time I share a meal with like family that I don't get to see often as much anymore because most of them are in Ohio, or I've got family in the Philippines and things like that, it's a spiritual experience for me. Especially like in the project that I'm working on, I have a poem about this dish called Bicol Express. It's like a spicy pork dish, and it has bagoong, which is like a fermented shrimp paste. So it turns like kind of purple with the shrimp paste, or like a pinkish purple. And the first time I had it, my Kuya Sunny made it for me, and I realized, I mean, like, not just in the act of caregiving and like someone giving you food, but they're also giving you like a memory, and they're giving you a piece of like yourself through like culturally. And I think all of that is very important to the work. I do write about my actual mom a lot in the book, but I'm also contending with these notions of what else mothers us. And in some ways that is food. And in some ways for me, that is like video games have mothered me in so many ways. I was a kid, a 90s kid who like, I was raised by video games and in a lot of ways, having parents who were like constantly needing to work and stuff like that. Working class background and stuff. And then also like, in the poem that I just read, like there's the concept of nations mothering us. And that really complicates it because nations also mother our mothers. And yeah, so like being mothered is a political process too. And like, that has, I mean, politically there are like specific end goals in mind, and those end goals shift depending on who you ask, or what affiliation they have. But it's really important to contend with all of our different mothers, one of which is also that food.
I'm talking to you. You're so smart.
Yes. Yes.
Legitimately, I am being fed by this conversation, spiritually, emotionally, and intellectually. I think you have set yourself up for your next poem. Yeah,
well, I can talk about the food truck too a little bit if
yes, please. Because
speaking of mothers too, like that is a very special place for me to work because like the person who owns it often calls me like anak child, and like she is like a mother for me in some ways, and also like is the only Filipino community that I have in Arizona too. So that has been like a really important job for me, even though, I mean, like when I work it, I only get like once a day, like, oh, you're Filipino? You don't look Filipino. And I was like, I didn't know that like the Navy officers who were stationed in Subic Bay in the 70s suddenly became like an authority on what Filipinos look like, but apparently so. Yeah, but that job has been really important. And also like, I love talking about the food to like customers because I've been eating it my whole life. I remember when I like interviewed for that job and got it, I told like the owner that like, I want to feed people. And she was just like, you're Filipino. And I was like, okay, great. But that's what the work is too for me. Like the poetry for sure.
Amazing.
You are definitely cooking the next time I see it. No, I totally understand too, because I love to cook. The kitchen is kind of like my zen space, and feeding people is how I show love. Outside of that, it's really hard for me too. So I will. I understand the love that goes into the labor of making food.
No, but thank you, because you've also really kind of reconnected a lot of memories for me and my mother and food too. Even her being an immigrant and coming to like the United States, and McDonald's, right, was like, oh my God, I made it. McDonald's for her in the 70s was like, wow, I'm an American. And since then, her favorite thing to order is the caramel sundae. And I'll have it in memory of her every time I miss her. Like, that's my only McDonald's like little treat, you know. But it's so many layers. So this is a great conversation, Geramee. But please gift us with another poem, so then I could just like cry.
I will. I'll have to resist the urge to just talk about fast food for a really long time. I can talk about fast food for an embarrassing amount of time, because it is important to immigrant families, especially. They're like, I mean, that's like how we ate. I mean, KFC's, a big part of my childhood. I am going to read Ode to My Family in Kiev Fried Chicken and Fried Rice. The sun doesn't persist. It's just like us, does what it does till it can't any longer. Joy has been asking for fresh ways to enter our bodies. No measure past mouths flocked with feathers. We're all breathless, really. Astonished, another day has arrived unasked and sometimes stamped return to sender. Makes clockwork look obnoxious, the cadmium of a bruise pooling dead center in a day's fat, wet return. What used to bring me comfort now bloats my belly and anxiety. I have changed and won't apologize. I'm sorry. The most Filipino meal to me is KFC, extra crispy, broken over swords of garlic fried rice, then irrigated with a mixture of spiced vinegar and fish sauce. This meal is so Filipino, I won't even tempt a sound from my ma's homeland to try and prove I can pronounce them through the jutted doors of my lips. Won't colonize one part of me with another. I'm so disjointed, you could call me a republic. I'm so song, you can call me warbling. Oh Lord, make of me your most unwoke child. So stoked I'm a boat on fire, and also who ignited the sails. Being muscled by music and water is the only way I know how to let the wind in my mouth without naming it invader. I am always the translator of my own worst enemy, but I'm past that. When someone you love, really love, gives you their dying words, they give you a new name. It can be spoken only once before it becomes a part of your body. How you move and breathe, it becomes a soundless thing. They say, take this fried chicken thigh and go on, you hear? You got to eat this thing without me for a minute, but you won't be you, as I know you. The last time I heard my ma say, I want that, we unboxed multicolored hopia, and her eyes widened like a tributary flowing into some bigger version of itself, and her belly grunted want, and although she could barely chew or swallow, she took down half a piece just by virtue of desire. And now I think about this, staring into my bowl of chicken and rice. How as I eat it, I swallow every memory of it too. How many meals like this have met the furrow of my mouth? How many times have I said, I want that? How many times will I choose to utter it again? My new name is a silence in my body plugged with feathers and spent lungs. I have more than memories and more than want, but less than all you always. But what you gave me, I will give to myself. Have it. A fried chicken thigh at the center of our swirling galaxy. All the cream pools in the lowest pits, so sip so slowly. What doesn't kill you saves you for later. Sometimes the future just means another meal. Bruises too fill with the most astonishing light. I am so Pinoy, I will never stop dancing. I am so my mother's child, I will never be satisfied until my hands resemble vases, choked by what can make them more beautiful. I will never be more beautiful, never be more named, never claimed this way again. Unseated, unpotted, unheld, unamen, I say to you, the organ unbelieving pain into a memory. Ungoodbye, I say to the day which rises. I have all this light in me and nowhere else to go.
While Rocky recovers.
Oh, did you see me? I was like tearing up a little bit. Yes. I don't know. We're just like, again, I'm a mama's girl. So anytime anyone's like, let me catch up on my mom, I'm just like, please.
And also we're recording this on May 11th. Yesterday was Mexican Mother's Day.
Mm-hmm.
I too am a little in my feels because the vast majority of my aunts all flew to Mexico to spend it with their mother, my grandmother, who turns 90 later this year, and they were sending pictures. And I'm currently working on a cookbook of my grandmother's recipes, and like this is all. Why are you doing this to us, Jared?
I know. I'm just like,
On a.
I'm like legit crying. Oh gosh, Jerry. Give us a minute to collect ourselves because we're out here.
Collect yourself, Rocky. On a bit of a lighthearted note, only because you brought it up in the poem. If there's two things I know about Filipinos, it's karaoke and dance.
Yes.
That's right.
These two things
Yes.
show up in your life.
How do they show up in my life? Well, so like I do have the classic experience of like being a little kid at family parties and the titos and titas bringing out the karaoke machine. I think it is ubiquitous for all Filipinos. And also like this is the part where I'm like, oh, I'm half and it shows because like, though I do think, I mean, I can get down. I like to dance. I love to dance. I wish I was better at singing. And I feel like all of my cousins are just like so good at singing. It's ridiculous. I don't do the karaoke very much, but like I'll dance. And maybe one thing I have inherited is that like I love to perform and like be in front of people. And I like did improv comedy for a few years. And like my mom thought I was going to be like an actor basically, and would take me to like child auditions for like commercials and things like that. Even though I was like kind of really shy still. But I do think there is like a, like loudness is maybe the wrong word, but like an excitement that is in blood, like that. Yeah. So those things are there, and they're not going anywhere.
I'm here for it. I throw down at karaoke too.
I know. I've seen.
See, like I feel like just like you, Jeremy, if I had the voice, I would be a problem. Like nobody can say anything to me. I wish I could sing. I don't. But yeah, I don't know what I think. Like literally, God has blessed all Filipinos just with that voice. It's wild. It's wild and just dancing. But I kind of want to go back. I know you said like not to like go into a fast food like binge talk with you, but like I kind of do want to talk about that, especially when it parallels with like the immigrant experience, right? You said like Kentucky Fried Chicken was the way that you like really connect to. What other like very Americanized type of food or experiences that your family really like grabbed onto to be like, yes, we're in the United States and like,
yeah,
this is amazing. Yeah.
So I do like, I know that like fast food is like trashy, not good for you, whatever, but also like
we don't judge.
Like it's a really important like cultural product, I think. And like the consistency of it is very important, or like, even if it's like, I don't know, sometimes you get like a shitty Big Mac or whatever, but like the flavors are like kind of the same. And I think that is really important because like when you deal with like a family member's death who like everyone has like a specialty in my family. And I think that's a pretty like anytime you have a family party, it's like, oh, we know like this person's making the machado. This person's bringing the chicken adobo. My mom was like the dessert person, but there's things that I had to accept that like I can learn how to make like pork adobo, but I never get to have like my mom's pork adobo again. Even if I follow the exact recipe, even though like when I would ask her like the exact recipe, she would just be like, I don't know, like Google it or something. I was like,
Amazing.
Immigrant mother of her.
Just very, you know, I as my friends, I have a friend who's a chef, and she's like, just let the ancestors guide you, Raquel. And I'm like, great, thank you.
like, and I can make approximations, or I can get like, that tastes close, but I never get to like, I only get to be on the periphery of like some memories with those food, except fast food. I get to eat a bunch of like hard tacos from Taco Bell, and I'm like, this is just like how I was when I was a kid. And like, that's a really important experience to get to like continue to have. Because that like, I mean, we didn't go out to eat a lot when I was a little kid. And like our version of going out to eat was like, we're going to get a bunch of fast food, bring it home, put it all out on the table, and like have a little feast. And like, I get to continue to like engage with those memories by the consistency of like fast food being around, which is like, so it's like really important to me. And Taco Bell was a big one when I was a kid, because they had like, I think it was like 29-cent tacos on Tuesdays and Thursdays when I was a thing. McNuggets on a Sunday after church were that was a big deal. And the Whopper too, I would say, like, all of those things have like a special place. I remember like, also specifically the Jamocha shake from Arby's, that like, that it's a good shake. And also like, that was like, when you're a little kid, like, that was like, my mom would like be like, oh, we're going to go to Arby's so I can get this shake. But it also meant that I got to have something too. But a lot of my tastes are like, I was like truly like I'm the youngest of three, and I was like a mama's boy. And when she did like her like Saturday shopping at JCPenney or whatever, I was like right there. And we were going to Arby's after for a Jamocha shake.
I love that. I love that so much. I think, yeah, I don't think like a lot of people talk about like the importance of like immigrants' families with fast food. I think that we shame fast food so much. But when, you know, there's so many times where like, even if you go, I don't know, I just remember like visiting family in El Salvador, and they're like, oh my God, you have like a McDonald's? Like, can you like send us like the toys that the McDonald's like, you know, Happy Meals have? It's a big thing. It's like a side of a social status, right? Where it really is like, we made it. We have McDonald's money sometimes. Go ahead, Chippy. I think you probably have a question.
I do. I was just going to comment on Cece's Pizza after church every Sunday.
Oh my gosh, yes.
With our thing, is there Cece's, or if we'd been extra good that week, we'd go to Wendy's.
Yes, Wendy's too.
Yes, but I wanted to go back to something real quick to kind of bring us a little full circle, kind of sort of where this conversation started, but as we wrap up, which was something that you kind of like glossed over at the beginning, where you were just like, let me read from my thesis. Like it was nothing. But yeah, I wanted to come back to that because you got your MFA, graduated last year.
Yeah. Thank you.
Congrats. And I think my question might be twofold. One is to MFA or not to MFA. That is the question. And also the process of putting together your thesis. Talk to us.
Yeah, I think the MFA or not to MFA, I'll go for first because it's maybe simpler to answer, which is like, one, if you already have money or savings, I say like, just go for it. Sure. I like, maybe if we hit a target, I'm like, you know what, if you have like $10,000 in saving, just do an MFA, and it shouldn't even be like an issue of like to or to not do it. You get time to write, and like you're doing okay. To a lot of people who are like, I mean, like my MFA, like a lot of my time was like dealing with like money problems and stuff like that. And I did get time to write, and it was not easy. And I don't know if I necessarily like recommend it. But I survived, and like I'm doing all right-ish. But also like the job market's really bad right now. So if you've got like a job and you like walk away for an MFA, I'm like, I don't know. So it depends on like each individual's circumstance. And I think that there are plenty of good reasons to MFA, but just like really be picky. Like if you have someone that you want to work with or something like that, I would say go for it. But if you're just doing it to be like, it feels like the next step for you or something, I would say that like the MFA as a feeling like a step in a career or something like that is kind of an illusion, because sometimes it is for people and sometimes it isn't. Like there's no guarantee by getting an MFA, like it's going to like connect you with the right people or something like that, or like you'll have like these network opportunities. So it really depends. And also it's really tough to just like move somewhere. Like I started my MFA like 6 months after my mom died, and I moved to a new state during quarantine era, and I did not step foot in campus once, like my first year in my MFA. And I just like holed up in my little apartment. I basically moved to Arizona to become to like exile myself is what it felt like. So yeah, there are a lot of circumstances that just in individual circumstances, but I think that my MFA was like very valuable to me. I feel like I got the experience of being able to like experiment and like try new things. And that was really important to me. And I know that that is not everyone's experience in an MFA. Like maybe sometimes you roll up and they're like expecting you to write a certain way, or they like want you to write a certain way. But I was very fortunate where I just got to show up and I would try new things all the time. And that was something that was like, I felt very supported in getting to try new things. For putting the thesis together, one of the best pieces of advice that I did receive from my thesis advisor, Fareed Matuk, was when making a draft, archive your old draft and like seal it up, write draft one on it, and kind of like, make it feel like you are preserving it for like archivists in the future, basically, or like take your work that seriously though. Like, where, yeah, you're like archiving a specific draft and making like a timeline. That was really useful to me because I got to say like, well, that version of this is done now and time to move on to a new version, instead of feeling like those things were all like blurring together. The taping poems on a wall was also really useful. I feel like I took pictures and everything. Like, I feel like a lot of people who are putting books together do that, but I also like, I had little like colored sticky notes to put on all of the poems. And each color represented like a specific theme or thing that the poem was doing. And the goal with that was to like see the thematic threads as they like played out. It also helped me arrange like, well, if these two poems are dealing with like this thing, or they both have like red sticky notes or something, I knew like this poem needs to come first and this poem needs to come later in the manuscript. So it helped me arrange them like on a thematic level. And yeah, that was really, really helpful. And it also just like, you really have to like understand what all of your poems are doing in order to do that. So it forces you to like examine every single poem, and it helps you get rid of the ones that maybe aren't doing as much, or you're able to like retrieve lines from poems where you're like, this poem is in here just because of like this little snippet. And you figure out how to like work it in elsewhere and be a little bit more considerate of like how the language is arranged that way, like throughout like each individual poem.
Yeah.
No, wow. I feel like I have so many more questions, Jeremy. We're so out of time, and I could tell Chippy would be like, "No, we're in a tight kind of show."
No, honestly, I got another hour in me just for Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy VII alone.
Stop, because I would. I think I saw a website where you were the poet laureate of Kingdom Hearts. Is that Yeah,
I've published some stuff dealing with Kingdom Hearts before, and I just started like calling myself that for fun.
Amazing. I love it so much. Again, see, I can have so many other questions, but we have to stop. Okay, so let's end off with like the last question. Is that okay, Chippy? We're good. Okay.
We say this at the end of every conversation. We're like, yes. Keep talking for hours because we could.
We could. But
about everyone on the show.
Yes. So you know what? This is our last question. And this is the question that we've been ending off the season with, just this season. So I'm so curious to know, what would be the title of the poem for the next chapter of your life?
Whoa. Well, is it a cop out to like just go with the poem that I like wrote the most recently?
No, it is not.
That feels the most appropriate. Like, so it would maybe be Geramee Hensley is deceased and I am filing this tax report on their behalf. And it would be directed to the IRS.
Amazing. Wow.
But that's like a lot of like the new work that I've been producing has to do with like class consciousness and some things like that. So that feels like an appropriate. Yeah.
I was going to say, I hope the next chapter of your life is not death.
No, but you can have a different death, right? Your old versions of yourself can die, right? And just new. And I'm always down to scam, especially the IRS. Like, they don't deserve my taxes. I deserve my taxes.
Here scams the IRS.
Did you say nobody here? I don't know. If I could, I would and get away with it.
Allegedly. No, this has been a fantastic conversation. We truly could keep talking for hours. I am now inspired to go back and replay Final Fantasy VII and start Kingdom Hearts because I never got into it. So, yeah, it's a thing. It was a thing. I just didn't.
You're in for a treat.
Huh?
Yes.
You're in for a treat.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. While I save up for my PS5 that I will get in 6 years when the PS7 comes out. But thank you so much for being here with us this hour. If people want to find your work, if you want to be found, where can people find out more about you, your work, your life, etc.?
Yes. Well, first, thanks for having me, and thanks for everything you're doing with the podcast and like the community and showing up and doing the work. And I really appreciate it. People can find me at Geramee.com, Geramee.com. I'm fortunate to have a weird spelling name, so I'm like search engine optimized, and I can own my own domain. And on there, on my website, like Instagram and Twitter are linked too. And yeah, feel free to throw me a follow. If you do, let me know like what you like to eat or something, or talk to me about Final Fantasy VII or anime, any of those things, or poetry too. We can always talk, right?
Sure. We can talk about anything. Well, yeah, no, it's been a treat and a pleasure. And until we meet next time,
yes,
in LA,
yes.
Or sooner, we'll see. San Antonio is definitely lacking in the Filipino department, and definitely Filipino barbecue department. So
yes,
bring it over. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.
I am so hungry, Raquel.
I'm hungry. I just want to play video games now. You know me. I'm a big animal. Right now, my current obsession is Animal Crossing. But I definitely want to. I've been like talking about this for years. Again, I too don't have a PS5. When looking at different gaming consoles of like, should I get a Switch or a PS5? I was like, oh, Switch is just so much cheaper.
Really? Yeah. We got a Switch a few years ago and it sustained us. I still have my PS4.
Yeah.
That's been fine. Except I can only load like 1 or 2 games at a time because the games that I play are like Final Fantasy VII and like Assassin's Creed. So they take up like all of the memory.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's going to be time for an upgrade in the next, you know, year or 2 or something like that. We'll see.
You'll see. Because like when I was doing the consoles, I was really researching because all the Kingdom Hearts, because there's like, I think 8 of them, can all be like be purchased as like one big huge like package on PS5. So if you have the time, Chibi, you can know like what we mean, but about simple and clean. Yeah. No, this was fantastic. This really, really was fantastic. Just, you know, talking about video games, food, family. I feel full in all the ways, and I hope you do too.
I feel full in all the ways except my belly. So I'm going to go, let's thank some people so I can go make some chicken poblano soup and feed the one part of my self and soul that is not currently full.
Okay. So thank you, listeners. Thank you. If you were here on this journey, I hope you also are working up an appetite. We just provide all this amazing, delicious content for you. So thank you so much and keep listening.
Exactly. Thank you too to Chris Condé, who is the queer rapper, musician, performance artist extraordinaire that produced our theme song.
Yes, and thank you to Write Art Out in the City San Antonio Department of Arts and Culture, whose support has helped produce this podcast.
If you are enjoying this show and you want to find out more about when upcoming episode seasons or just, you know, like interact with us on the regular, you can follow us on IG and Twitter at WordsandSh.
And you can watch and listen to past episodes on YouTube and wherever you can get your podcasts. Please, we have a fantastic array of different episodes from different poets. So please check us out.
We only have a couple more episodes left in this season, but that doesn't mean you can't catch more than more than 90 episodes. Okay, so go back and don't forget while you're there to like, subscribe, rate, review. It really helps us get the word out about this show and about the amazing poets that we are featuring on this show. Come for your favorites, leave with new ones. Until next time, y'all, stay safe out there.
And stay hungry.